So I wanted to ask how you guys handle conflict in your relationship. That's kind of like a broad question, I know, but like if one person is feeling very like heated, do you guys find it better to hash things out in the moment or take space and come back together? Because I'm realizing when I do that, I calm down so much that I don't feel the need to talk about it anymore, or I kind of forget why I was so upset. So yeah, I don't know if that's too broad, but I was kind of wondering if you guys could touch on that.
It's a good question. I think for us, it's important that we talk about it. And, okay, sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's not a good time to talk, because you might say things that you don't mean, and, it can get messy. So giving it some time until you actually cool down and gain some rationality, and then to express what your feelings were. This tends to work for both of us. And for me, she's more of the one who brings it up again, and it's very good for me to be able to share. Because also for me, I tend to forget about it. But the problem with that is that resentments over time can build up, as I've noticed with past relationships, until it's too much, it blows up, and then it's just way too much. So those small resentments, they need to be dealt with whenever they arise, or shortly after, within the next day or something.
Okay.
Something else that I feel is really important for us, or it's something that we do, is also, okay, so maybe we both have the maturity and the level-headedness and, the balance to be able to speak to this right now. And then as you and Vaidava are sharing, sometimes we need to just take a moment to check in with ourselves and what is it that I'm feeling? What in particular triggered me? And then also, how is this a pattern in my life? Where else have I been triggered by this before? Maybe not specifically, I don't know, that he didn't do the dishes, but that, that more of this feeling of wanting someone to behave a particular way, and then they act outside of it, and that makes us angry. Let's say this is never something he loves doing the dishes, but just pulling a random situation out. And so then this is very important, because then we start to unravel the issue at a deeper level, rather than just dealing with it up here as if it's just about dishes. And so we both take time to reflect and say, you know what, I think this might be coming from actually something with my dad from childhood. I have this memory of him never doing the dishes and my mom's resentment towards him. And I can recognize that in this moment, this was just one time you didn't do the dishes, and that you would have done it if I'd said something. So does that make sense? To be able to come back to a deeper seeing rather than just what's going on the surface. And also to be able to, I think something that's really important for both of us is when you start to have this kind of sharing in a relationship, then you become aware of each other's wounds. We're aware that okay, my partner has a sensitivity around feeling rejected. And so once you really start to get to know each other, you might have a moment at a dinner party where you make a comment and you weren't intending to reject them, but yet you know that they might have felt that. And so you go to them and you be with them because you are understanding of this wound. And it's not to coddle it and to make it so that they never feel it again, but also to be a place and a person that they can feel safe with and trust and be like, okay, I know I have something with rejection, and sometimes I need my partner to kind of hold me in a moment that, might not necessarily have been rejection, but I feel safe with them to let this rejection go because they're there for me when it rises.
Yeah, and I mean, Artie touched upon it a little bit, but it's important to not play this blame game that we tend to, you know, by taking some of one's own responsibility for whatever the difficulty is, you know, because a lot of times it's our own perception of what's happened, and the other person also might be guilty in some ways, but it's also how you're treating it as well. So also to take that, if you can take that responsibility, some of the responsibility, it's easier for the other person to also admit their responsibility, and then you can come to a conclusion that both of you are to blame, and then there's like kind of a love in that sharing, you know, and understanding that we're not perfect, you know, and we don't expect the other to be perfect either. So
any issue that arises for Bhairav and I, we both have this like fundamental ground understanding that every issue is a two-way street. Even if it's just one person misunderstanding a situation, they still had a responsibility or an active role in whatever issue came up. You know, we could so easily, he didn't do the dishes, well, he's the bad guy. But, you know, then there's also a responsibility that I need to take of like, well, why is that such an issue for me? Why does that have to bother me? Because when I'm truly in myself, I'm accepting of whatever rises in the moment. And so this is an indication that I'm not in myself, and I'm instead in my person and my story and my reactive way of moving in the world that is rooted in actually memory and conditioning and past experiences. Great question, though.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing answer.